Craftsmanship and cottage industries in colonial America. As the candlelight flickered softly against wooden walls, and the night air whispered through timbered windows, a quiet rhythm filled the early American home. The steady creak of a spinning wheel, the muffled tapping of a cobbler's hammer, the scratch of a quill against parchment. All were gentle echoes of a time long before industry roared. This was the world of craftsmanship and cottage industries in colonial America. A world built not by factories or corporations, but by hands, weathered, skilled, and endlessly inventive. In the 1600s and 1700s, life in the American colonies was shaped by scarcity, distance, and resilience. Everything from clothing to tools, candles to soap, had to be made at home or by neighbors. There were no chain stores, no imports in abundance, and no machines to mass produce. What the settlers lacked in technology, they made up for with ingenuity. Each family was, in a way, its own small industry. The concept of a cottage industry may sound quaint now, but back then, it was the beating heart of economic and social life. Families transformed part of their homes into small workshops, spaces for spinning, weaving, tanning, blacksmithing, and toolmaking. A front room might be where food was cooked and children were taught, but the back room held the loom, the dye pot, and the wooden tools passed down for generations. Imagine a colonial homestead in Massachusetts. Outside, fields of corn sway in the breeze, but inside, a woman sits patiently at a spinning wheel, pulling wool through her fingers, twisting it with practiced ease into yarn. Upstairs, a teenage boy sands a plank of oak for the chair he's crafting by hand. In the shed, his father shapes horseshoes in a small forge, while the scent of wood smoke and oil lingers in the crisp morning air. These families didn't just survive, they created. They took the raw materials around them and reshaped them into useful, beautiful things. Wool from sheep became coats. Flax from the garden became linen. Beeswax became candles, and tallow from cattle fat burned in handmade lamps. In larger towns, some craftspeople began to specialize. A cobbler might make shoes not only for his family but for the whole village. A cooper built barrels that would carry grain and salted fish down to the harbor. A milliner stitched hats and bonnets for neighbors. These weren't large-scale producers. They worked slowly, with care and pride, crafting each item by hand. Their tools were simple. Their knowledge was often passed down from parent to child or taught through years of apprenticeship. The apprenticeship system itself was a kind of early education in innovation. A young boy might be sent to live with a blacksmith at age 12, learning not only how to forge metal but how to repair broken tools, design new ones, and work within the limits of the materials. He would spend years learning the feel of iron, the behavior of heat, the timing of hammer blows. By the time he was a man, he wouldn't just know how to copy old tools, he'd know how to improve them. And the women, so often overlooked in the grand tales of invention, were the quiet engineers of home life. A mother might invent a better way to preserve food, or tweak a family recipe into a new kind of herbal medicine. Women worked tirelessly to sew, cook, raise animals, spin yarn, and tend gardens. Their hands were never still, and in every act of repetition came innovation. A better way to mend a shirt, a faster way to churn butter, a clever twist in braiding corn husks. Cottage industries thrived on collaboration. In a village, a potter might trade mugs for bread. A weaver might swap fabric for iron nails. This barter economy was as much about relationships as resources. People depended on one another's skills, and through that dependency, knowledge and ideas spread. A better loom design in one town might appear in another a month later. A shoemaker's trick for lasting soles might become common wisdom along a busy road. Geography, too, shaped invention. In the north, where winters were long and forests thick, settlers relied heavily on woodworking and indoor crafts. In the south, with longer growing seasons, there was more agricultural innovation, better plows, stronger carts, methods to process cotton or tobacco more efficiently. Necessity, as always, was the mother of invention. Over time, some craftspeople began to grow beyond their villages. A talented carpenter might be called to nearby towns. A silversmith in Boston might become known for his fine engraving, drawing customers from miles away. These were the seeds of American entrepreneurship, small businesses built on skill, trust, and reputation. And out of these cottage industries came some of America's earliest inventors. Paul Revere, remembered for his midnight ride, was a master silversmith who experimented with metalwork and found new ways to cast bells and engrave copper. Benjamin Franklin, before he flew kites in thunderstorms, ran a printing shop and designed more efficient stoves and spectacles. They didn't begin in universities or labs. They began in workshops, surrounded by sawdust and sweat. Cottage industries also laid the foundation for what would become American manufacturing. The rhythms of spinning and weaving, hammering and shaping were deeply ingrained by the time factories emerged in the 1800s. The people were already used to making things with care and intention. All they needed was new tools to scale their labor. But there was something precious in that earlier time, a sense of direct connection between person and product. A table built by hand carried the mark of its maker. A dress sewn by candlelight held the memory of the hands that stitched it. These objects were not just useful. They were meaningful. They told stories. Tonight, as you drift deeper into rest, picture the soft glow of a hearth fire and the quiet hum of early American life. A spinning wheel turns in the corner. A child dozes beside a hand-woven quilt. Outside, a blacksmith's forge cools in the starlight. It was a slower world, a quieter world, but one brimming with creativity and care. This was where American innovation began, not with machines, but with hands, homes, and hearts. Benjamin Franklin and the spirit of curiosity. In the soft glow of an 18th century candlelight, a curious mind quietly probed the mysteries of the world. Benjamin Franklin, one of America's most celebrated inventors and thinkers, was not born with a silver spoon but with a spirit of endless curiosity and an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. In a time when the colonies were still young and uncertain, Franklin's inquisitiveness and inventive mind planted seeds that would shape the American spirit of innovation for centuries to come. Franklin's journey into the world of invention began not in a grand laboratory but in a humble print shop. As a young apprentice to his brother, he learned the trade of printing, but his restless mind pushed him beyond the pages of newspapers and pamphlets. He read widely, science, philosophy, politics, and experimented with new ideas at every turn. One of Franklin's greatest contributions to the colonial world was his understanding of electricity, a force mysterious and fascinating. His famous kite experiment, though often romanticized, was a bold attempt to unlock the secrets of lightning. By flying a kite in a thunderstorm with a key attached to the string, he demonstrated that lightning was a form of electricity, bridging the gap between natural phenomena and scientific understanding. But Franklin was not just a scientist. He was a practical innovator. He created inventions designed to make daily life easier and more efficient. Take the Franklin stove, for example, a cast-iron stove designed to heat rooms more effectively while using less wood. It was a response to the cold New England winters, a clever combination of science and practical need. Franklin also invented bifocal glasses, allowing people to see clearly both near and far without changing spectacles. This simple but brilliant idea reflected his ability to observe everyday problems and devise elegant solutions. These glasses became widely popular and are still in use today, a testament to his lasting impact. In addition to these inventions, Franklin's spirit of curiosity extended to public projects. He helped establish the first public lending library in America, believing that access to knowledge was essential for a thriving society. He founded the University of Pennsylvania, emphasizing education and intellectual growth as foundations for progress. His inventions and ideas were driven not by fame or fortune but by a desire to improve life for all. Franklin's famous adage, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest," echoes his lifelong commitment to learning and sharing ideas. Franklin's influence also went beyond inventions. He was a statesman, a diplomat, and a writer who helped shape the political landscape of America. But it was his inventive mind, grounded in curiosity and practicality, that truly captured the spirit of American innovation. In the quiet moments of reflection, imagine Franklin hunched over a desk, sketching designs for a new invention or writing letters filled with scientific musings. His world was one where imagination met action, where questions led to discovery, and where the humble print shop could be a birthplace of revolutionary ideas. As you let these thoughts drift gently through your mind, you feel the calm persistence of a man who saw the world not just as it was, but as it could be. Benjamin Franklin's legacy reminds us that innovation is rooted in curiosity and a desire to make life better, no matter how small the step. Tonight, as sleep pulls you deeper into rest, carry with you the gentle spirit of inquiry that sparked some of America's earliest inventions. In the quiet hours, when the world slows down, the mind can dream, and sometimes, those dreams light the way to a brighter future. The role of inventors in colonial communities. In the quiet towns and villages scattered across the American colonies, inventors played a unique and essential role. They were not the famous names etched in textbooks but the local tinkerers, craftsmen, and thinkers whose innovations quietly shaped daily life and helped communities thrive in a harsh and uncertain environment. Colonial America was a place of practical needs and limited resources. There were no sprawling factories or government-funded research labs. Instead, innovation was born out of necessity, creativity, and a spirit of collaboration. The people who lived in these communities often wore many hats: farmer, blacksmith, carpenter, and inventor all rolled into one. Their inventions were not grand scientific breakthroughs but practical solutions that made life easier and more efficient. Take, for instance, the blacksmith. This craftsman was crucial in every settlement. He repaired horseshoes, forged nails, and crafted tools. But many blacksmiths also invented new devices or improved existing ones. For example, they might develop a better plowshare that could cut through tough soil more easily or design stronger wagon wheels for rough roads. These improvements helped farmers increase productivity and opened up new possibilities for transportation and trade. In many towns, inventors became trusted members of their communities. People sought their advice and relied on their expertise. Inventors often shared ideas freely, and this exchange of knowledge led to gradual improvements across towns and regions. Innovation was communal, not competitive. Women, too, contributed significantly, though their inventions were less likely to be formally recorded. They devised new cooking tools, storage methods, and textile techniques. A woman might invent a new way to preserve food for winter or create a more efficient loom for weaving fabric. These domestic innovations were vital to the survival and comfort of families. Inventors also played a role in education. In a time before public schools were widespread, many learned their trades and crafts through apprenticeships. Experienced inventors mentored young people, passing on skills, techniques, and the curiosity needed to improve on existing methods. This tradition helped ensure that innovation would continue to grow with each generation. Religious communities sometimes supported inventors by encouraging practical skills and craftsmanship. The Puritans, for example, valued hard work and resourcefulness, seeing innovation as a way to serve God and improve society. This cultural backdrop gave inventors a moral as well as economic purpose. Inventors were often motivated by personal need, but they also had an entrepreneurial spirit. Many sold their inventions or services to neighbors and travelers, slowly building small businesses. These early entrepreneurs laid the groundwork for America's later industrial growth. At times, inventors faced challenges. Resources could be scarce, and communication between distant communities was slow. Ideas took time to spread, and patent laws were rudimentary or non-existent. Still, the determination of these inventors was strong. They understood that even small improvements mattered, and their work often had a lasting impact. In the evenings, after a long day of labor, an inventor might sit by the fire, sketching ideas or tinkering with a new prototype. These moments of quiet creativity were the seeds from which greater innovation would grow. As you drift off tonight, picture these colonial inventors, their hands steady, their minds curious, and their hearts devoted to making life better for their families and neighbors. Their humble contributions built a foundation for a nation that would come to value invention and ingenuity above all. Early American tools and their evolution. From the very first days of settlement, tools were the lifeblood of survival and progress in colonial America. Without modern machinery or imported goods, settlers depended heavily on the tools they carried with them or fashioned by hand. These tools, simple yet ingenious, tell a story of adaptation, resourcefulness, and the gradual evolution of technology that would later fuel the American Industrial Revolution. Early colonists arrived with a basic set of tools, axes, saws, hammers, and knives, many inherited from European traditions. However, the New World presented new challenges: dense forests, unfamiliar soils, and a harsh climate. To thrive, settlers had to modify and invent tools suited to their environment. The axe, for instance, became more than just a chopping instrument. Blacksmiths improved its design, creating different sizes and shapes for felling trees, shaping wood, or even defense. A smaller hatchet might be carried for camping, while larger broad axes cleared forests for farms. Farmers developed hoes and plows adapted to local soils. The simple wooden plow was gradually replaced by iron-tipped designs that could better till tougher ground. Some inventors created adjustable plows to accommodate different crops, allowing more efficient planting and harvest. In workshops, carpenters relied on chisels, planes, and saws. The evolution of these tools came through subtle improvements: sharper blades, stronger handles, and better ergonomics. These refinements made construction faster and more precise. Blacksmiths crafted nails by hand, forging each one individually. Over time, they devised machines to speed this process, reducing labor and cost. This small but vital innovation facilitated the building of homes, fences, and ships. Textile tools also evolved. Early settlers spun yarn by hand using simple drop spindles, but the introduction of the spinning wheel revolutionized fabric production. Weaving looms grew more complex and efficient, allowing communities to clothe themselves with locally made cloth. Fishing and hunting tools were adapted to the new environment. Settlers fashioned traps, nets, and fishing spears suited to the rivers and forests of America. Firearms were gradually improved upon as local gunsmiths crafted and repaired muskets and rifles. The evolution of tools was not just about function but also about material. Settlers experimented with local woods, metals, and even bone to craft implements. The combination of Old World knowledge with New World resources led to unique hybrid tools. Communication about these innovations often occurred through town meetings, letters, and fairs, where craftsmen shared ideas and demonstrated new techniques. This exchange fostered a culture of continuous improvement. These early tools laid the foundation for later technological advancements. The familiarity with shaping materials, problem-solving, and improving designs helped the American colonies transition from subsistence living to burgeoning industry. As you settle into sleep, imagine the rhythmic sounds of these early tools: the chopping of axes, the scraping of planes, the hammering of nails, echoing through forest clearings and village workshops. Each sound is a note in the symphony of American innovation, a gentle reminder of how necessity inspired invention. The impact of agricultural innovation in colonial America. In the early days of colonial America, life depended heavily on the soil. The ability to grow food was not just a matter of survival. It shaped the entire economy, society, and future of the colonies. But farming was no easy task. The land was often wild and untamed, the climate unpredictable, and traditional European farming methods didn't always work well in the new environment. This challenge sparked a wave of agricultural innovation, quietly transforming the way people lived and worked on the land. These changes were the first steps in America's long journey toward becoming a powerhouse of food production and technological progress. One of the earliest and most significant innovations was crop rotation. Unlike the old European practice of leaving fields fallow, colonial farmers experimented with rotating different crops like corn, beans, and squash in the same plot. This technique helped preserve the soil's nutrients and kept the land fertile year after year. It was a simple but powerful idea, learned partly from Native American agricultural practices. Corn, or maize, became a vital crop, and its cultivation spread rapidly. Unlike wheat or barley, corn could grow in a variety of soil types and climates. Farmers also discovered how to dry and store corn for long winters, ensuring food security through harsh seasons. Steam engines and locomotion. The 19th century's industrial awakening would be incomplete without the steam engine, the powerful heart that pumped life into America's expanding transportation networks. Steam engines turned the age of travel on its head, shrinking distances and opening new economic frontiers. The steam engine's journey began in the 18th century, with inventors like Thomas Newcomen and James Watt improving earlier designs. By the early 1800s, steam power had been adapted for locomotion and industry in America, where rivers, canals, and roads previously constrained transportation. Steam-powered locomotives emerged as revolutionary machines. Robert Fulton's steamboat, Clermont, famously demonstrated in 1807 that steam engines could propel vessels upstream against strong currents, connecting cities and facilitating trade. Railroads soon followed, knitting the vast American landscape with iron tracks. The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, chartered in 1827, was America's first common carrier railroad, symbolizing the country's commitment to technological progress and infrastructure growth. Steam locomotives carried goods, raw materials, and passengers faster than ever before, driving urbanization and industrial growth. With steam locomotion, isolated frontier towns became connected hubs of commerce and culture. Raw materials like coal and iron could be transported to factories, while finished products found new markets. The steam engine powered factories, mills, and ships, becoming a cornerstone of the machine age. This transformation was not without its challenges. Steam engines demanded vast quantities of coal and water, and accidents were frequent in the early days. Yet, their undeniable efficiency and transformative potential made them the preferred technology. The steam engine also symbolized human mastery over nature's forces, transforming water into powerful mechanical energy. This mastery defined the 19th century's spirit of innovation and progress, fueling America's march toward industrial greatness. As you drift off, picture the rhythmic chug of the locomotive, the hiss of steam, and the vast iron rails stretching endlessly, carrying America forward on a track of innovation. The telegraph and Morse code. In a world transformed by machines and rapid transport, communication remained slow until the telegraph changed everything. Invented by Samuel Morse and Alfred Vail in the 1830s and 1840s, the telegraph allowed messages to travel across wires at the speed of electricity, compressing time and space like never before. Before the telegraph, news and messages traveled at the speed of horses, ships, or trains. This delay limited commerce, diplomacy, and personal connections. The telegraph's electric pulses could transmit information instantly over vast distances, connecting distant cities and even countries. Morse's genius lay in creating a simple, universal code, dots and dashes, that could translate letters and numbers into electrical signals. This Morse code became the language of the telegraph, simple enough to be learned by operators worldwide. The first public demonstration in 1844, sending the message "What hath God wrought" from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore, marked the dawn of a new communication era. Telegraph lines quickly expanded, paralleling railroads and becoming vital infrastructure. The telegraph revolutionized business, journalism, and government. Stock prices, weather reports, and news bulletins could now be shared instantly, creating a more connected and informed society. It also played a crucial role in coordinating military efforts during the Civil War. The speed of communication accelerated economic integration, helped knit the vast American territories into a single nation, and paved the way for future communication technologies like the telephone and the internet. Imagine, as you relax, the faint clicking sounds of a telegraph operator, sending and receiving coded messages that shrink the world, quietly weaving a web of instant connection across the country. Samuel Colt's Revolver Revolution. The Industrial Awakening was not just about machines and factories. It also touched everyday objects, transforming how Americans lived and fought. Samuel Colt's invention of the revolver in 1836 exemplifies this blend of innovation and practical impact. Before Colt, firearms were slow to reload and unreliable. Colt's revolver featured a rotating cylinder holding multiple bullets, allowing several shots to be fired without reloading. This design greatly increased the efficiency and safety of handguns. Colt's genius extended beyond invention to manufacturing. He applied interchangeable parts and assembly line techniques to produce revolvers efficiently and affordably. His factory in Hartford, Connecticut, became a model of modern manufacturing. The Colt revolver had profound effects on American society, especially on the frontier. It became a symbol of personal protection, law enforcement, and even the rugged individualism of the Wild West. Colt's manufacturing innovations helped set the standard for American arms production, demonstrating how mechanization could produce high-quality goods at scale. As you drift into sleep, picture the steady rhythm of Colt's factory machines, shaping metal with precision, crafting tools that changed history and everyday life alike. Textile mills and water power. Textiles were the industry that kicked off America's Industrial Revolution, and water power was its lifeblood. Early textile mills harnessed the kinetic energy of flowing rivers and streams, replacing human and animal labor with machinery. The first successful textile mill in America was established in Lowell, Massachusetts, in the 1820s. These mills were marvels of engineering, filled with spinning jennies, power looms, and carding machines. Water wheels turned shafts and belts, transmitting power throughout the mill. This technology enabled the mass production of cotton and woolen cloth, dramatically lowering costs and making textiles widely available. These mills also marked a social transformation. Entire families and communities worked in mills under regimented conditions. The Lowell Mill girls, young women who worked in the factories, became icons of the new industrial workforce. The use of water power linked industry to natural geography, shaping the growth of mill towns and cities. Later, steam power would supplement and eventually replace water, allowing factories to move away from rivers. Imagine the constant turning of water wheels, the whir of machinery, and the bustling life of mill towns as this early engine of American industrialization hummed to life. Mechanical reapers and agricultural growth. While industry surged forward, American agriculture was transformed by inventions like Cyrus McCormick's mechanical reaper. Introduced in the 1830s, the reaper mechanized the harvesting of grains, which had been labor-intensive and slow. The mechanical reaper could cut and gather grain much faster than manual labor, reducing costs and increasing yields. This efficiency helped farmers expand production to feed a growing nation and export surplus crops. McCormick's success also illustrated the growing importance of patent laws and marketing in American innovation. He aggressively patented and promoted his reaper, ensuring widespread adoption. Mechanized agriculture supported the Industrial Revolution by freeing labor for factories and providing food for urban populations. Visualize golden fields being swiftly harvested by the reaper, a quiet revolution in the countryside, setting the stage for modern farming. Canals, railroads, and quiet expansion. Transportation infrastructure was vital to America's industrial awakening. Canals and railroads quietly reshaped the landscape, enabling goods and people to travel faster and farther. The Erie Canal, completed in 1825, linked the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean, opening interior America to commerce. Railroads soon expanded, crossing mountains and plains, shrinking the vast country. This expansion facilitated settlement, resource extraction, and industrial growth, quietly but relentlessly knitting the nation's economy. Picture the steady movement of canal barges and steam locomotives, silently powering the country's growth. Sewing machines and domestic ease. Invented in the mid-19th century, the sewing machine revolutionized clothing production both industrially and domestically. Elias Howe and Isaac Singer were key innovators who made sewing faster, cheaper, and more accessible. The machine transformed fashion, household chores, and garment manufacturing. It exemplified how mechanical innovation touched everyday life. As you relax, think of the gentle rhythm of sewing machines stitching the fabric of daily life. Ice boxes and food preservation. Before refrigeration, ice boxes allowed families to store perishable food longer. Using blocks of ice harvested in winter, these insulated boxes slowed spoilage, improving diet and health. This innovation, often overlooked, was critical for urban living and modern food industries. Imagine cool, silent ice boxes quietly preserving life's essentials through summer heat. Typewriters and early offices. The invention of the typewriter in the 1860s transformed offices and communication. Early machines like the Scholes and Glidden typewriter improved speed, legibility, and record-keeping. The typewriter also opened new jobs for women and shaped modern office culture. Picture quiet offices filled with the steady tapping of typewriter keys, an early rhythm of industrial-age work. Thomas Edison's light bulb glow. The flickering candlelight and dim gas lamps of the 19th century were soon to be eclipsed by a glow that would transform daily life forever: the incandescent light bulb. At the heart of this revolution was Thomas Edison, a relentless inventor whose work illuminated not just rooms, but the very path of progress in America. Edison's journey toward creating a practical electric light was not a simple one. Many inventors had tinkered with the idea of electric lighting, but the problem lay in creating a bulb that could burn brightly, steadily, and economically for hours without burning out. In 1879, after countless experiments, Edison finally found the secret: a carbonized bamboo filament inside a vacuum-sealed glass bulb. This filament could glow steadily for more than 1,200 hours, making it commercially viable. The impact of Edison's invention was enormous. For the first time, cities could be lit safely and efficiently, freeing people from the dangers of open flames and noxious gas fumes. Streets, factories, and homes were transformed by electric light, extending productive hours and improving quality of life. But Edison's achievement went beyond just the bulb. He developed an entire system, generators, wiring, and distribution networks, that made electric lighting practical for mass use. The Pearl Street Station, opened in New York City in 1882, was the world's first central power station, supplying electricity to a small district and heralding a new age of energy distribution. Edison's light bulb was more than an invention. It was a symbol of the industrial age's promise. It embodied the spirit of innovation and the belief that technology could reshape the world in profound ways. Tonight, as you relax, picture the warm, steady glow of Edison's bulb, quietly pushing back the darkness and lighting the way toward a brighter future. Nikola Tesla's quiet genius. While Edison basked in the limelight, another genius quietly transformed the future of electricity: Nikola Tesla. His vision of alternating current, AC, would soon challenge Edison's direct current, DC, systems and lay the foundation for modern electrical power. Tesla, an inventor and engineer of Serbian descent, arrived in America in 1884 with revolutionary ideas. He believed that AC, which allowed electricity to be transmitted over long distances efficiently, was the key to electrifying entire nations. Tesla's inventions included the induction motor and transformers that made AC power practical and reliable. His work culminated in the famous War of Currents with Edison, a fierce battle over which electrical system would power the future. Ultimately, Tesla's AC system won out, enabling widespread distribution of electricity and powering cities, homes, and industries far beyond the reach of Edison's DC networks. Tesla's quiet brilliance and visionary ideas reshaped the energy landscape, making possible the vast electrical grids that illuminate the world today. Imagine Tesla in his lab, surrounded by crackling coils and shimmering sparks, dreaming of a world connected by invisible currents of power. Power stations and soft city lights. As electrical technology advanced, cities across America began to glow softly at night, thanks to the growing network of power stations and electrical grids. Power stations, large plants generating electricity, sprang up near coal mines and waterways, converting mechanical energy into electrical energy on an unprecedented scale. The gradual spread of electric street lamps replaced gas lamps and candles, transforming urban life. Streets became safer, shops stayed open later, and the night took on a new, electric hue. Power companies competed and collaborated to expand their reach, building the infrastructure that would light the nation's homes, factories, and public spaces. Tonight, as you rest, envision the gentle illumination of softly glowing street lamps casting a calm light over bustling city streets, a silent testament to human ingenuity. Telegraph wires to telephone lines. The wires strung across the nation, first carrying telegraph pulses, soon buzzed with the voices of millions, thanks to the telephone. Alexander Graham Bell's invention in 1876 revolutionized communication by allowing real-time voice conversations over long distances. The telephone quickly evolved from a curiosity to a necessity, with lines spreading through towns and cities, linking families, businesses, and governments. This shift from Morse code taps to human voices marked a leap in connecting people, accelerating social and economic interactions. Imagine the hum of early switchboards and the click of operators connecting calls, weaving a new social fabric of instant communication. Hydroelectric dreams. Niagara Falls. One of the greatest feats of harnessing natural power came with the hydroelectric plants built near Niagara Falls at the turn of the century. The mighty falls, a roaring torrent of water, became a source of clean, renewable energy through turbines and generators. This project demonstrated the potential of hydroelectric power to provide vast quantities of electricity without pollution. Niagara's power supplied industries and homes, lighting up cities and symbolizing a new era of energy sustainability. Picture the thunderous falls channeling their might into spinning turbines, quietly powering a brighter tomorrow. Rural electrification, lighting farms. While cities basked in electric light, rural America lagged behind for decades. The vast distances and low population density made electric infrastructure costly to build. Efforts to bring electricity to farms and small towns grew through government programs and cooperatives, especially during the New Deal era. Electrification transformed rural life. Farm chores became easier, homes more comfortable, and communities more connected. As you unwind, think of farmhouses lighting up at dusk, a beacon of progress in the countryside. Quiet motors and electric fans. Electricity didn't just light homes. It powered new appliances that made daily life easier. Quiet electric motors drove fans, pumps, and machines, replacing manual labor and improving comfort. The electric fan, for example, brought relief during hot summers, symbolizing how electricity improved quality of life in subtle yet profound ways. Imagine the gentle breeze of an electric fan spinning softly in a shaded room, a quiet revolution in home comfort. Phonographs and recorded sound. Thomas Edison again transformed daily life with the invention of the phonograph, the first device capable of recording and playing back sound. Introduced in 1877, the phonograph brought music and voices into homes, changing entertainment forever. Electricity later enhanced phonographs, improving sound quality and accessibility. Think of the soft crackle of early records spinning, bringing voices and melodies to life in dimly lit parlors. Quiet revolutions in energy storage. As electrical systems grew, storing energy became a crucial challenge. Early batteries and storage technologies evolved, enabling portable and reliable power. These quiet innovations supported everything from telegraph systems to emerging electric vehicles. Picture the steady hum of charging batteries, quietly building the foundation for modern energy solutions. Silent spread of electrical grids. The final step in lighting the nation was the creation of widespread electrical grids, linking power stations, homes, and industries in a vast network. This silent spread connected rural and urban areas, making electricity a ubiquitous and reliable utility. The grid's expansion symbolized the nation's progress, knitting together distant communities in light and power. As you drift to sleep, imagine the invisible currents flowing through miles of wires, silently energizing a nation on the move. The Wright brothers' gentle flight. In the quiet town of Dayton, Ohio, two brothers, Orville and Wilbur Wright, nurtured a dream that would forever change humanity's relationship with the sky. Unlike the roaring engines and flashing lights of modern aircraft, the Wright brothers' early experiments were gentle and methodical, quiet trials carried out with a deep understanding of nature's rhythms. At the heart of their pursuit was a simple but revolutionary idea: controlled, powered flight. Many had dreamed of flying, and even attempted it, but no one had mastered the delicate balance required to keep a heavier-than-air machine steady in the air. The Wright brothers approached the challenge not with grandiosity, but with meticulous study and patience. They began by observing birds, noting how their wings moved and how they controlled their flight. They experimented with kites and gliders, developing a system of control that allowed a pilot to balance and steer the aircraft. This system of wing warping, which twisted the wings to maintain stability, was a key innovation. Their breakthrough came on December 17, 1903, at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. On a cold, windy morning, Orville Wright piloted the first successful powered airplane flight, a brief but historic 12 seconds covering 120 feet. The plane, named the Wright Flyer, was fragile by modern standards but monumental in human history. What made their flight truly gentle was the careful attention to every aspect of the process. From building their own lightweight engine to designing the propellers, the Wright brothers' work was a harmonious blend of science, craft, and quiet determination. Their success sparked the beginning of an era that would shrink the world, making distant places reachable in hours instead of months. It also inspired generations of inventors and dreamers to look upward, beyond the horizon. Today, as you close your eyes, picture that first gentle flight, an elegant dance between human ingenuity and the sky, where hope took wing for the very first time. Balloon experiments and airships. Before airplanes ruled the skies, humans first learned to float gently above the earth in balloons. The history of ballooning is one of wonder and exploration, a delicate, slow ascent into the unknown. These early flights were peaceful journeys, carried on the whispers of the wind, with a fragile basket hanging beneath a giant envelope filled with hot air or lighter gases. The 18th century saw the first successful human-carrying balloon flights, with the Montgolfier brothers in France leading the way in 1783. Their hot air balloon lifted humans into the air for the very first time, inspiring awe and excitement across Europe. In the 19th century, innovations led to airships, large, steerable balloons powered by engines. These dirigibles glided quietly, offering a new way to explore the skies, transport goods, and even carry passengers. The Zeppelin, a famous German airship, became a symbol of graceful flight across vast distances. While slower and less powerful than later airplanes, balloons and airships offered a unique, gentle experience of flight, an intimate connection with the air currents and the changing colors of the sky. These early aerial vehicles paved the way for the more advanced machines to come, reminding us of humanity's first tentative steps towards conquering the skies. Imagine floating serenely above rolling fields and quiet rivers, carried softly on the breeze, watching the world unfold below in a dreamlike panorama. This was the beginning of human flight, a peaceful ascent into a new dimension. Early gliders and wind tests. The story of flight is also the story of those who dared to glide silently through the air, trusting their bodies and machines to the wind. Before powered airplanes, gliders were the gentle pioneers of the sky, unmanned and manned machines designed to test how wings could carry weight through the air. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, inventors like Otto Lilienthal conducted careful experiments with gliders. Lilienthal, often called the glider king, made thousands of flights, studying how different wing shapes affected lift and control. His flights were calm, controlled descents, much like a bird smoothly drifting through the sky. The Wright brothers built on Lilienthal's work, conducting wind tunnel tests and building their own gliders to refine their understanding of aerodynamics. Their gliders were carefully designed to allow pilots to balance and steer, a breakthrough that made powered flight possible. These early wind tests and gliders remind us that flight is not about power or speed alone. It is about harmony with the air, a careful dance with invisible currents that can lift us gently if we know how to listen. Barnstormers and sky dancers. As flight technology advanced, a new kind of aerial entertainment emerged in the 1920s and 1930s, barnstorming. These were fearless pilots who took to the skies, performing daring stunts and tricks that amazed audiences across small towns and cities. Barnstormers flew small biplanes, weaving between buildings and looping through the sky with a sense of grace and danger. Their performances were a mix of skill, courage, and showmanship, a celebration of human mastery over the air. But even in these thrilling moments, there was a quiet beauty. The sky dancers moved with a kind of poetry, their planes tracing delicate patterns against the blue. Their flights were not just about spectacle. They were about the joy of flight itself, a reminder of the freedom that comes with soaring above the earth. These barnstormers inspired countless young people to dream of flying, contributing to the growth of aviation as both a profession and a passion. Passenger planes and calm skies. With the dawn of commercial aviation, the dream of flying gently from place to place became a reality for many. The early passenger planes were simple and slow compared to modern jets, but they opened the skies to travelers seeking to explore the world. Companies like Pan American Airways and British Airways began offering scheduled flights, connecting distant cities and countries. These early journeys were calm and peaceful affairs, with passengers gazing out windows at the clouds, sipping tea, and marveling at the new perspective flying provided. Aircraft cabins were small, cozy, and quiet compared to today's bustling airliners. The slower speeds and lower altitudes made for a smoother ride, where travelers could relax and feel a connection with the vast skies around them. Flying became not just a means of transport but an experience of wonder. A gentle journey across the world's vast spaces, shrinking distances and bringing people closer together. Radio navigation and quiet progress. Behind every successful flight lies a hidden network of technology, quietly guiding planes through the skies. The development of radio navigation systems in the early 20th century was a quiet revolution that made flying safer and more reliable. Before radio navigation, pilots relied mostly on visual landmarks and basic instruments, which limited flying to good weather and daytime hours. Radio navigation introduced tools like the four-course radio range and later, VHF omnidirectional range systems, which allowed pilots to follow radio signals to their destinations, even through clouds or at night. This technology expanded the possibilities of flight without fanfare, just steady, dependable progress. Air traffic controllers, radar, and communication systems formed an invisible web of safety and coordination, helping flights proceed calmly and efficiently. Radio navigation's quiet influence transformed aviation from a risky adventure into a dependable part of everyday life, ensuring that flights could take off and land safely regardless of weather or time. Mail by air and flying delivery. Long before package delivery drones or express courier services, the idea of sending mail by air captured imaginations worldwide. Air mail service began in the early 1900s, providing a new way to connect people and places quickly. Flying mail planes were modest, sturdy aircraft that gently carried letters and parcels across vast distances. These planes traveled routes that once took days or weeks by horse or train, delivering news and messages in a matter of hours. The pilots who flew these mail routes faced unpredictable weather and rough terrain, yet their flights remained calm and steady, driven by a quiet sense of duty and purpose. Airmail not only revolutionized communication but laid the groundwork for modern cargo and logistics industries, all rooted in the simple, peaceful act of flying letters through the sky. The Spirit of St. Louis. The story of Charles Lindbergh's historic 1927 solo non-stop flight from New York to Paris is a tale of quiet courage and determination. His plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, was a modest, single-engine monoplane, no flashy features, no extravagant design, just reliable engineering and a pilot's steady hand. For 33.5 hours, Lindbergh flew alone across the vast Atlantic Ocean, navigating by sight, compass, and dead reckoning. The flight was a test of endurance, skill, and calm resolve. Lindbergh's achievement captured the world's imagination and proved that long-distance air travel was possible. His quiet, unassuming style made him a symbol of the new age of flight, where technology met human will in a gentle but unstoppable union. The Spirit of St. Louis remains an icon of innovation and bravery, a reminder that great dreams often begin with simple, quiet flights. Boeing's beginnings in Seattle. In the bustling shipyards and workshops of Seattle, Washington, the Boeing Company was born, a company that would become synonymous with flight and innovation. Founded in 1916 by William Boeing, the company started by building seaplanes, using techniques adapted from shipbuilding. Boeing's early planes were crafted with care and precision, reflecting the quiet determination of the Pacific Northwest's industry. The company quickly grew, pioneering new designs and setting standards for reliability and safety. As Boeing expanded into commercial aviation, it brought a new level of comfort and efficiency to flying. Their aircraft became known for smooth rides and dependable service, helping to make air travel accessible to more people. Seattle's Boeing Company embodies the spirit of American innovation, a blend of craftsmanship, vision, and steady progress, quietly shaping the future of flight. Air traffic and gentle journeys. As skies grew busier, the need to manage air traffic became critical. Air traffic control systems were developed to guide planes safely through crowded airspace, ensuring smooth, calm journeys for passengers worldwide. From the ground, air traffic controllers use radar and communication tools to coordinate flights, prevent collisions, and manage schedules. Their work is largely unseen but vital, a quiet orchestra of precision and vigilance. Modern air travel, with its vast networks of routes and thousands of daily flights, depends on this calm, continuous effort. Passengers experience the result as seamless, gentle journeys, whether crossing continents or just flying to a neighboring city. This invisible system of control and care is one of the greatest unsung innovations in aviation, allowing millions to fly safely and peacefully every day. The rise of the refrigerator. In the early 20th century, a quiet revolution transformed kitchens and homes across America. The invention and rise of the refrigerator. Before this innovation, families relied on iceboxes, bulky and inconvenient containers cooled by blocks of ice, which melted quickly and required constant replenishing. The refrigerator introduced a new way to preserve food, using electrical power to keep perishables fresh for days and weeks. This breakthrough changed not only how people stored food but how they lived. Groceries could be bought less frequently, meals planned more flexibly, and food waste drastically reduced. The refrigerator's cool hum became a comforting background sound in countless homes, a gentle reminder of modern convenience. It gave families a new freedom, lessening daily burdens and improving health by keeping food safe. The rise of the refrigerator is more than just a story of technology. It is a tale of domestic peace, quiet progress, and the transformation of everyday life. Washing machines and quiet chores. Laundry, once a laborious, time-consuming task done by hand with scrubbing and rinsing, was forever changed by the washing machine. Early models were mechanical marvels that took the physical strain out of washing clothes, allowing families to save precious time and energy. Over decades, washing machines evolved quietly, becoming more efficient, automated, and gentle on fabrics. Their smooth cycles spun away dirt and weariness, filling homes with a sense of ease and cleanliness. The gentle whir of a washing machine became a familiar, reassuring sound, an emblem of modern comfort and domestic care. By reducing manual toil, these machines allowed more time for rest, work, and family, quietly improving the rhythm of daily life. Microwaves and time saved. The microwave oven arrived as a new domestic miracle, shrinking cooking times dramatically and changing meal preparation forever. With a quick beep and warm glow, meals could be reheated or cooked in minutes, a far cry from the slow simmering of stoves and ovens. Though initially met with curiosity and skepticism, microwaves soon became household staples, prized for their convenience and efficiency. Their rapid cooking reduced stress in busy homes, offering a simple way to nourish families even on hectic days. The microwave's quiet presence in kitchens across the country symbolizes a profound shift, one toward valuing time and ease without sacrificing nourishment. Air conditioning in American homes. The arrival of air conditioning brought a cool comfort that reshaped American life, especially in the hot, humid summers of the South and Southwest. Early air conditioning units were large and costly, but their gentle, refreshing breeze quickly made them highly desirable. Air conditioning changed how homes were designed and used. People could sleep more soundly, work more comfortably, and gather more joyfully indoors regardless of outside heat. Neighborhoods grew, businesses flourished, and life became more pleasant. The soft hum of air conditioners is now woven into the fabric of daily living, a quiet comfort that transformed homes into cool havens of rest and renewal. The television's gentle glow. In the mid-20th century, the television became the heart of many American homes. This glowing box brought stories, news, and entertainment into living rooms, gathering families together with its soft flickering light. Television offered a gentle escape, calm hours of quiet observation, laughter, and sometimes reflection. Its influence stretched beyond entertainment, shaping culture, ideas, and connections across communities. The television's glow is often remembered as a comforting presence, a window to the wider world from the warmth of home. Vacuum cleaners and easy cleaning. Cleaning floors and carpets was once a back-breaking chore, involving sweeping, beating rugs, or pulling heavy tools. The invention of the vacuum cleaner changed this with a quiet, sucking power that lifted dust and dirt with ease. Early vacuum cleaners were bulky and noisy, but as technology advanced, they became lighter, quieter, and more efficient. Their steady hum became part of household life, signaling cleanliness and care. The vacuum cleaner's gentle work helped create healthier, more comfortable living spaces, easing domestic duties and allowing more time for rest. Dishwashers and domestic freedom. The dishwasher revolutionized kitchen cleanup, transforming a time-consuming, hands-on chore into a simple task of loading and unloading. Early dishwashers were luxury items, but over time, they became common fixtures in many homes. By washing dishes efficiently and quietly, dishwashers freed up hours that were once spent at the sink. This small machine gave families more freedom to focus on shared meals, conversations, and relaxation. The dishwasher quietly supports domestic harmony, a reminder that innovation can nurture not only convenience but joy. Suburban lawn tools and peaceful gardens. As suburbs blossomed across America, so did the desire for neat lawns and tranquil gardens. Innovations in lawn mowers, trimmers, and garden tools made yard work easier and less time-consuming. These tools operated quietly, allowing homeowners to tend peaceful green spaces, a place to relax, play, and connect with nature. Maintaining a beautiful yard became part of the gentle rhythms of suburban life. Lawn tools remind us that innovation extends beyond the home's walls, enhancing outdoor spaces where families find calm and comfort. Electric clocks and sleepy timekeeping. Electric clocks replaced winding and setting mechanical clocks with precise, dependable timekeeping. Their quiet ticking became a familiar part of bedrooms and kitchens, helping families manage their days with gentle regularity. With electric clocks, people could wake and sleep on time, keeping schedules aligned with modern life's demands. They provided a subtle but constant structure, silent sentinels marking the passage of hours and moments. This innovation brought peace of mind, helping to create orderly, restful homes. Comfort through innovation. Taken together, these domestic miracles created a new world, one where homes became sanctuaries of comfort, convenience, and calm. Each innovation, from the refrigerator to the electric clock, contributed to a quieter, easier life. These technologies reshaped daily routines and gave families more time to rest, connect, and thrive. They remind us that true progress often comes in gentle, invisible steps, quiet revolutions that transform the ordinary into something extraordinary. As you imagine the hum of these machines and the peaceful homes they serve, feel the warmth of a century of innovation making life softer and more comfortable for all. ENIAC and whispering computers. In a quiet room filled with the hum of electricity and the subtle ticking of relays, something extraordinary was coming to life. It was 1945, and deep within the walls of the University of Pennsylvania, engineers and mathematicians were tending to a mechanical behemoth known as ENIAC, the Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer. Standing tall like a giant row of filing cabinets, this early computer was more than just a machine. It was the whispering beginning of the digital age. ENIAC wasn't small or sleek like the devices we now carry in our pockets. It was immense. Over 100 feet long, 8 feet high, and weighing about 30 tons, ENIAC filled an entire room. Its glowing vacuum tubes, nearly 18,000 of them, cast an orange warmth in the otherwise cold room. These tubes, fragile and hot to the touch, would hum softly when the machine was in motion. And when the calculations began, it wasn't loud or dramatic. There was a serenity to it, a steady rhythm of lights flickering, switches clicking, and numbers moving through invisible circuits. The men and women behind ENIAC were pioneers. John Morchley and J. Presper Eckert led the design, but it was the tireless work of 6 brilliant women, Kay McNulty, Betty Jennings, Betty Snyder, Marlon Westcorf, Fran Beelis, and Ruth Lichterman, who programmed this complex computer. They did so without manuals, blueprints, or programming languages as we know them today. Their work was like orchestrating a quiet ballet of wires and logic, guiding the machine to solve equations for artillery trajectories during World War II. ENIAC could do in seconds what would take human minds days. It could add 5,000 numbers in a single second, an astonishing feat for the time. But it wasn't just about speed. ENIAC represented a shift in how humans thought about problems. No longer were we limited by the pace of our own minds or our fingers on a slide rule. We had built something that could process, calculate, and assist us, gently and tirelessly. Despite its power, ENIAC was fragile. Tubes burned out regularly, and its heat was so intense that it required heavy-duty cooling systems just to stay operational. Maintenance was constant, and programming it was a puzzle of switches, cables, and patience. But with every repair and reconfiguration, ENIAC proved its worth and laid the groundwork for what would become the world of computing. In the years that followed, ENIAC's design principles would evolve into smaller, more efficient machines. But in that early moment, as the lights blinked softly and the operators stood in awe, there was a sense that something profound had begun. This machine, with its quiet hum and glowing tubes, had opened a door into a new kind of future, one where information could be stored, manipulated, and shared through silence and light. Today, ENIAC is long retired, resting in pieces in museums. But the spirit of that early computer still echoes in every modern device, in every search query, in every line of code. It was the whisper that began a global conversation, one that would grow louder, faster, and more interconnected, but always rooted in those early, quiet sparks of innovation. The birth of the Internet. Long before we could scroll through social media or send messages across continents in seconds, the idea of a network connecting the world began with a quiet ambition: to share information securely and reliably across long distances. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't loud, but in research labs and military offices, the foundations of what would become the Internet were quietly being laid down. In the late 1960s, the United States Department of Defense funded a project called ARPANET, an experimental network that allowed computers at different universities and research centers to communicate. It started modestly. 4 computers connected, one at UCLA, another at Stanford, one at UC Santa Barbara, and one at the University of Utah. The first message sent was supposed to be login, but the system crashed after just 2 letters. Still, the message LO went through, an unintentional but poetic beginning to the Internet, like the system was softly saying hello. ARPANET was built on the principle of packet switching, a gentle but brilliant way of breaking data into small packets that could travel independently and be reassembled at the destination. Unlike traditional phone lines, which remained open during a call, packet switching made communication nimble and efficient, like whispering notes back and forth in a library without disturbing anyone else. As ARPANET grew, more universities and institutions joined in. The community was small and scholarly. Messages were technical, often academic. There were no cat videos, no advertisements, no distractions, just a quiet exchange of knowledge. And with time, protocols like TCP or IP were developed, creating the shared language that would allow different networks to talk to each other. January 1st, 1983, is often marked as the official birthday of the Internet, the day ARPANET adopted TCP/IP and opened the path for global connection. What began as a cautious project for communication became something far greater, a fabric that would connect the entire world. But in those early days, it was still a secret garden of the few, a space for scientists, engineers, and dreamers. And they treated it with care. Today, the Internet is vast, fast, and noisy. But it was born quietly, in blinking terminals, in dimly lit labs, and through hushed messages sent between distant machines. The hum of modems and the slow, stuttering connections of the early days were part of its charm. It grew not with explosions, but with soft persistence. The birth of the Internet didn't feel like a revolution at the time. It felt like a gentle unfolding, a slow revelation of what was possible when minds and machines reached out to one another across the void. Bill Gates and personal computers. In a modest office with stacks of books and blinking monitors, a young man with oversized glasses and a focused stare was quietly reimagining the future. His name was Bill Gates, and he wasn't looking to create noise or spectacle. He wanted to put a computer in every home, every office, every classroom. A bold dream, whispered into the world during a time when computers were still seen as tools for scientists and corporations. In the 1970s, computers were massive and intimidating. Few imagined they could become personal. But Gates, alongside his childhood friend Paul Allen, believed otherwise. In 1975, after reading an article about the Altair 8800, a small, do-it-yourself computer kit, they saw an opportunity. They reached out to the makers of the Altair and promised something that didn't exist yet. A programming language that would allow people to write software for it. That language was BASIC. They worked day and night, quietly and obsessively, to build the code. When it worked, it was a revelation. It wasn't flashy, but it unlocked something powerful. The ability for individuals, not just institutions, to communicate with machines. Microsoft was born from that humble success. Gates wasn't a rock star inventor. He didn't build hardware or fly planes. He coded. He negotiated. He built partnerships. And most importantly, he understood that software was the soul of the machine. As IBM entered the personal computer market in the early 1980s, they turned to Microsoft for an operating system. MS-DOS was simple and text-based, but it worked. It was the quiet heartbeat of millions of machines. As Microsoft grew, Gates remained at the helm, often underestimated but never outmaneuvered. With the introduction of Windows, a graphical interface that made computers more user-friendly, Microsoft took computing from the technical to the personal. You could click, drag, paint, type, and play, all from your desk. Bill Gates didn't shout his vision. He typed it, coded it, signed it into agreements. His influence wasn't felt in loud inventions but in the soft, ever-present hum of software. The personal computer was no longer a dream. It was on desks around the world, humming quietly, waiting for input. Apple's garage innovations. It's almost a myth now. Two young men in a garage, wires strewn across a workbench, quietly changing the world. But it began just like that. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, in the modest garage of Jobs' family home in Los Altos, California, tinkering, experimenting, and dreaming. While the computer industry at the time was focusing on machines for corporations and governments, these two saw something gentler, more intimate. A computer that could belong to an individual. Not massive, not noisy, just simple, personal, and friendly. In 1976, they introduced the Apple I. It wasn't flashy, but it had a wooden case, a keyboard interface, and could connect to a monitor. It felt human. Wozniak was the technical wizard, soldering circuits and writing code with clarity and calm. Jobs was the visionary, imagining how these tools could fit beautifully into everyday life. That first Apple computer was sold from the back of a car and built in batches, piece by piece. It wasn't just a product. It was a quiet promise that technology could be creative, warm, and accessible. Then came the Apple II, a sleek, complete machine that invited people to explore computing in their own homes. Schools began using it. Kids learned to code. It was the start of something revolutionary, but soft-spoken. As the 1980s unfolded, Apple continued to grow, but it was always that original garage that shaped its story. A place of innovation not born from laboratories, but from curiosity and craft. Even the name, Apple, felt like a sigh of relief in a world of technical jargon. It was simple, nourishing, even friendly. Jobs would later bring design and emotion into machines with the Macintosh, but the soul of Apple was born in that quiet garage. And from that quiet space, echoes would ripple through every home, school, and pocket in the decades to come. Graphical interfaces and soft screens. Once, computers spoke only in text. Green or amber letters flickering on black screens, blinking cursors waiting for typed commands. It was functional, but cold. Until someone asked, what if using a computer felt more like reading a book, or moving objects around a desk? Enter the graphical user interface, or GUI. It was a simple yet profound shift. Instead of memorizing commands, users could click on pictures. Folders looked like folders. Trash looked like a bin. A mouse could move a cursor like a hand reaching gently across the screen. Suddenly, computers became visual. Approachable. The idea first found form at Xerox PARC, a quiet think tank in Palo Alto. There, in hushed rooms filled with brainpower, the foundations of modern computing were quietly laid. Windows, icons, menus, a desktop metaphor. Steve Jobs visited, watched, and left inspired. What Xerox left in the lab, Jobs carried to the world through Apple's Macintosh in 1984. The Mac's interface felt soft, inviting. You didn't need to know code. You could just point and click. It was a whisper of the future. Computing made humane. Soon, Microsoft followed with Windows, and graphical interfaces became the norm. Computers no longer barked back with code. They smiled with color, with buttons, with icons that gently guided the user's hand. It changed everything. Work felt less like programming and more like exploring. Art, music, and design found a new home on screen. With graphical interfaces came accessibility. You didn't need to be an engineer to create, play, or write. You just needed to open a window. Email, modems, and digital quiet. Imagine a time when communication traveled slowly, letters by post, phone calls tethered to wires. And then came something soft, immediate, and entirely new: email. Electronic mail, born from the quiet corridors of ARPANET, grew into a gentle revolution. The first email was sent in 1971 by Ray Tomlinson. It wasn't grand, just a test message between two machines sitting next to each other. But it introduced a symbol that would come to define the age at. A simple marker, pointing gently from user to destination. In the 1980s and 90s, as personal computers spread, so did modems, those squealing, crackling boxes that turned phone lines into doorways. You'd dial in, wait for the tone, and then, silence. A soft connection to a new world. Email became the lifeline of digital communication. It didn't interrupt. It didn't demand. It simply waited, quietly, in your inbox. You could send a message to a friend across the country or a colleague across the globe, and they could reply when ready. No rush, no noise. Early internet users would spend hours composing emails, joining mailing lists, and slowly downloading attachments. It was patient, like writing letters by candlelight, but with the magic of speed. As the web expanded, email followed. Yahoo Mail, Hotmail, and Gmail opened their arms to millions. Each inbox became a personal archive, memories, reminders, little whispers of daily life. And even today, in an age of instant messages and social media, email remains. Calm, structured, and often overlooked, it's still there, quietly doing what it's always done, connecting people without a fuss. Laptops and wireless freedom. There was a time when computing meant being anchored. A desk, a chair, a tangle of cords. But in the soft evolution of technology came a simple question. What if you could take your work and your world with you? The first laptops were bulky and shy. Machines like the Osborne one, introduced in 1981, looked more like sewing machines than sleek electronics. But they were portable, a quiet step toward freedom. Over time, they grew thinner, lighter, more graceful. By the 1990s and 2000s, laptops had become companions. They could fit in backpacks, rest on laps, follow you to cafes and quiet corners. Work no longer had to happen in one place. Creativity and thought could roam. Then came Wi-Fi, wireless connectivity that unshackled the laptop entirely. No more cords, no more plugging in. You could write in the park, email from the train, stream music while lying in bed. The internet followed you like a silent friend. Laptops became tools of students, travelers, remote workers, and dreamers. Soft keyboards, gentle screens, silent scrolling, all designed to move with you, not against you. In a world that often rushes, the laptop remains a portable pause. Open the lid, and it's your world, waiting, quietly. Smartphones and pocket power. Once upon a time, phones just rang. They buzzed and beeped and sat on tables. But slowly, quietly, they evolved. They shrank. They added screens. And then, one day, they became smart. The idea of a smartphone had been brewing for years. Early PDAs, personal digital assistants, offered calendars and contacts. The BlackBerry whispered emails into pockets. But in 2007, something shifted. Apple released the iPhone, and the world exhaled. A touchscreen. No buttons. Just a glass pane that responded with grace to every touch. It felt like holding the future in your palm. You could browse the web, check the weather, take a picture, and write a note, all in one place. And most importantly, apps. Little portals that could do anything. Wake you up, guide your walk, play a melody, or let you talk to someone across the world, face to face. Smartphones turned pockets into power stations. A million tools, ready and quiet. We no longer needed to wait for a computer or a map or a message. It was all there, waiting. They didn't shout for attention, though they sometimes buzzed. They fit silently into our lives. And even now, when the world spins fast, a smartphone is a calming constant. Familiar, useful, and always nearby. Gentle growth of social media. The internet brought us connection, and then social media brought us company. Quietly at first, in dorm rooms and coding sessions, these platforms emerged, not to shout, but to share. Facebook began at Harvard, a simple network for students. Then came Twitter, where 140 characters could carry big thoughts. Instagram let you share photos in squares. LinkedIn created quiet professional spaces. And YouTube, with its moving images and stories, turned everyone into a storyteller. Social media didn't demand your voice. It invited it. Post when ready. Like at your pace. Scroll without pressure. Follow softly. It was a gentle revolution. Community without proximity. Friendship without geography. Memory without paper. Of course, it grew louder over time. But its roots were soft. People sharing pets, poems, sunsets, and smiles. The gentle click of send. The quiet ripple of a comment. A like. A share. A connection. Cloud computing and invisible networks. Imagine saving a file and not knowing where it went, but trusting it would always be there. That's the cloud. An invisible space, silent and reliable, storing memories, documents, music, and more. Cloud computing began quietly, as companies realized they could host data remotely. Amazon, Google, and Microsoft built the infrastructure. Massive data centers with blinking lights and humming servers. But for users, it felt like magic. You no longer needed a disk, or even a device. Your world followed you, from phone to tablet to computer. Your work saved itself. Your photos backed up. Your emails synced. All without a sound. The cloud is soft. It doesn't interrupt. It waits, quietly, in the background. Your digital shadow, always present but never loud. And as the world grows faster, the cloud offers something still. The comfort of knowing your data is safe, floating gently above. Perfect. Let's begin heading 7. Medicine and wellness, healing through innovation. Continuing the calm, detailed, and gentle storytelling approach for your boring History for Sleep channel. Each subheading will be around 500 words. Here is 7.1, Vaccines and Public Health. Vaccines and public health. In the quiet corners of history, the greatest victories are not always celebrated with loud parades or towering monuments. Some of the most profound changes arrive gently, like the slow disappearance of fear. Vaccines are one such whisper of hope, small drops, tiny injections, that changed the human story in ways both vast and deeply personal. Long ago, diseases were part of daily life. Measles, polio, diphtheria, names that once struck fear into every household. Parents watched helplessly as fevers rose, as limbs weakened, as coughs deepened. Streets emptied during outbreaks. Schools closed, and mourning became a ritual too common. But then, slowly, science began to listen, to understand. In the late 18th century, a quiet country doctor named Edward Jenner observed something peculiar. Milkmaids who had contracted cowpox didn't catch smallpox. It was a gentle clue. In 1796, he tested his idea, introducing material from a cowpox sore into a young boy's arm. The boy remained healthy. A new word was born, vaccine, from vacca, the Latin for cow. It was the beginning of a long journey, a slow, careful layering of knowledge, courage, and care. In the 20th century, with the world still reeling from wars and poverty, vaccines became symbols of peaceful progress. Jonas Salk's polio vaccine arrived in the 1950s like a lullaby in a panicked world. Families lined up, not in fear, but in hope. Children received sugar cubes laced with the vaccine. Sweet. Simple. Saving lives. As the decades passed, more vaccines followed. For measles, mumps, rubella. For hepatitis, tetanus, and whooping cough. Each one was a small shield, gently offered. Not flashy, not loud, just a quiet gift from science to society. The effects were astonishing. Cities once haunted by outbreaks grew calm. Hospitals that had overflowed stood ready but less busy. Childhood became safer, softer. Parents breathed easier. Public health campaigns spread this protection further. Nurses traveled to remote villages. Posters and pamphlets whispered reminders. Schools hosted clinics. And global organizations worked, step by step, to ensure access for all. In time, some diseases were not just reduced, but erased. Smallpox, once a global terror, was officially eradicated in 1980. It remains one of humanity's gentlest victories, a disease defeated not by weapons, but by cooperation and care. Today, vaccines continue to evolve. New ones are developed in labs that hum quietly with data and diligence. mRNA technology, born of decades of soft-spoken research, helped the world respond to the COVID-19 pandemic in record time. It was science whispering back against chaos. And while debates may stir in the public square, the heart of vaccination remains the same. Protecting others, not just ourselves. A neighborly kindness. A community's silent embrace. So when a child receives a shot and cries briefly before returning to play, they are part of a centuries-long story, one written not with drama, but with devotion. A story in which wellness is shared, and healing begins before illness ever arrives. Penicillin and the quiet cure. In the serene silence of a petri dish left out a little too long, something miraculous happened. It didn't come with fireworks or grand speeches. It began with mold. In 1928, Alexander Fleming returned to his lab after a vacation and noticed something strange. A petri dish containing Staphylococcus bacteria had been contaminated by a blue-green mold, and around that mold, the bacteria had vanished. A zone of peace had emerged where once there had been a battle. That mold was Penicillium notatum, and it held within it the key to one of the most important medical discoveries in human history, penicillin. Before antibiotics, infections were cruel tyrants. A small cut, a sore throat, or a scratch could spiral into deadly outcomes. People feared pneumonia, strep, and even childbirth due to the constant threat of infection. Doctors could offer little comfort, mostly warm compresses, herbs, or hopeful prayers. But penicillin was different. It didn't just soothe symptoms, it attacked the root cause. It worked silently, gently, slipping into the bloodstream and halting the invaders. Once researchers understood its power, efforts began to cultivate it on a grand scale. During World War II, penicillin became a quiet hero of the battlefield, saving thousands of soldiers from infections that previously would have been fatal. The success of penicillin gave rise to an entire age of antibiotics, tetracycline, streptomycin, and others. Doctors now had tools not just to guess and hope, but to act. The once feared diseases like syphilis, tuberculosis, and bacterial meningitis were brought into the light, controllable, even curable. It was not just a medical breakthrough, but a moral one. For the first time, healing wasn't limited to the wealthy or lucky. Antibiotics became accessible, and with them came the promise of survival, dignity, and a future. But the story of penicillin also carries a whisper of caution. Over time, as antibiotics became overused, bacteria began to evolve. Resistant strains emerged, reminders that even the quietest cures must be treated with respect and care. Still, penicillin remains a soft triumph. A simple mold, nurtured by curiosity, gave the world a gentle weapon in the fight for life. It didn't shout, but it saved millions. It didn't boast, but it rewrote the rules of medicine. In hospitals, where 4 drips tick softly and nurses move quietly through the halls, penicillin's legacy lives on, not just in what it cured, but in what it made possible. A world where healing could happen not through suffering, but through understanding. X-rays and silent imaging. In the quiet dark of a winter laboratory in 1895, Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen saw something he couldn't explain. As he worked with cathode rays, a screen across the room began to glow. No visible light connected them. Curious, he placed various objects between the ray source and the screen. Coins, books, a piece of wood, and then, his wife's hand. What he saw was ethereal. Her bones, the outline of her wedding ring, shining ghost-like in the image. He had discovered X-rays. It was the first time in history humans could look inside the body without making a single incision. No blood. No scalpels. Just invisible waves passing through flesh and revealing hidden truths. Röntgen had opened a window into the silent world beneath the skin. Doctors embraced the technology quickly. No longer guessing about broken bones or swallowed objects, they could now see clearly. Tuberculosis in lungs, bullets lodged deep, fractures fine and small, all exposed without pain or surgery. Hospitals set up special X-ray rooms. Patients would quietly position themselves, and within moments, an image would appear. It was revolutionary, but understated. There was no noise, no drama, just a soft click and a sheet of light-sensitive film. Over the years, X-rays became commonplace. From dental offices to airport security, the world became accustomed to peeking into what was once hidden. The medical world especially changed. Radiology departments grew. New careers formed. And with further advances came CT scans and mammography, all rooted in Röntgen's quiet moment of wonder. Today, X-rays are so routine we hardly notice them. But each one carries the legacy of that winter night, the birth of a new way to see. A way that's silent, swift, and still miraculous. The discovery of insulin. In the early 20th century, a diagnosis of diabetes, especially type 1, was essentially a sentence of slow, painful decline. Without the body's ability to process sugar, children and young adults would lose weight, slip into comas, and fade away. Doctors could offer little more than starvation diets to delay the inevitable. But in a quiet Toronto lab in 1921, two researchers, Frederick Banting and Charles Best, worked tirelessly with dogs and pancreatic extracts. Their goal was clear: find the substance that regulated blood sugar. And after months of careful experiments, they succeeded. They had isolated insulin. Their first human trial was with a 14-year-old boy named Leonard Thompson. Wasting away in a hospital bed, he received an injection of insulin and lived. It was as if someone had reached into the dark and flipped on a gentle light. News spread quickly. Pharmaceutical companies began producing insulin, and what was once a death sentence became a manageable condition. Children returned to school. Parents dared to hope again. Insulin didn't cure diabetes, but it offered life, one injection at a time. It became a symbol of what science could do. Not erase pain entirely, but hold it back, slow it down, and soften the road. Over the decades, insulin improved. Animal extracts gave way to synthetic versions. Delivery methods evolved, from glass syringes to tiny pens and pumps. Researchers continued refining, balancing, personalizing. And yet, at its core, insulin's story is one of compassion, of persistence, of science not as spectacle, but as service. It's a story whispered between families, passed down through generations of those who live because two researchers chose not to give up. Certainly. Let's gently continue with heading 7, Medicine and Wellness, Healing Through Innovation, beginning with subheading 7.5, Heart Surgery and Soft Precision. There was a time when even the mention of heart surgery brought more fear than hope. The heart, so central, so delicate, seemed beyond human hands. For centuries, physicians dared not touch it. A wound to the heart was final. But slowly, gently, that began to change. And with it, the very nature of medical bravery. In the early 20th century, surgeons started attempting the unthinkable, operating on the beating heart. Early procedures were often desperate attempts to save lives in trauma, but by mid-century, the tide shifted. One of the most defining moments came in 1953 when Dr. John Gibbon successfully used a heart-lung machine to perform open-heart surgery. For the first time, the heart could be safely paused, repaired, and restarted. This achievement was not loud. It was technical, careful, and deeply quiet. The operating room, with its monitors and sterile tools, became a place where miracles occurred with whispers, not cheers. What followed was a soft revolution. Surgeons began correcting congenital heart defects in children, replacing faulty valves, and eventually performing bypass surgeries that extended and saved millions of lives. Techniques improved, tools became finer, and outcomes more hopeful. Tiny stitches, barely visible to the eye, became the threads that sewed lives back together. Technology brought even more finesse. The invention of angioplasty, threading a balloon through arteries to clear blockages, meant healing without large incisions. Stents, pacemakers, and implantable defibrillators emerged, each a quiet guardian of the heart's rhythm. Modern heart surgery now includes robotic-assisted procedures. Surgeons sit at consoles, their hands translated into flawless, tremor-free motions by machines. The patient rests beneath softly glowing lights, while cameras and robotic arms perform what once required large openings and long recoveries. All of this progress did not arrive with fanfare, but with steady, patient learning. Trial after trial. Failure followed by refinement. Behind every successful procedure lies years of gentle progress, one heart at a time. Today, millions live because of these quiet breakthroughs. They walk their neighborhoods, hug their children, sleep peacefully, each heartbeat a soft tribute to the delicate dance of science and compassion. Prosthetics and human support. In a quiet workshop filled with leather straps, wooden joints, and raw determination, the history of prosthetics began to transform. From ancient times, when soldiers would fashion crude wooden legs or iron hands, to today's sleek, sensor-driven limbs, the journey of prosthetic innovation is one of both pain and hope. Early prosthetics were functional, but harsh, heavy, uncomfortable, and often more symbolic than useful. But for many, even the idea of restoration mattered. To walk again, to hold a tool, to feel whole, that dream never faded. The World Wars marked a turning point. With thousands of soldiers returning with amputations, the urgency for better solutions grew. Engineers, doctors, and craftsmen worked together, creating prosthetics that were lighter, more responsive, and tailored to each person's body. In time, science brought new materials, carbon fiber, titanium, advanced plastics. The prosthetic leg no longer mimicked a leg in shape alone but began to recreate its motion. Joints were made to move with fluidity, feet flexed, hands grasped. Innovations like myoelectric sensors allowed prosthetic arms to respond to muscle signals. Quiet thoughts transformed into real-world action. For children born with limb differences, prosthetics became playful, colorful, and expressive. For athletes, they became tools of triumph, allowing running, climbing, swimming. No longer just for walking, prosthetics now expanded possibilities. Perhaps most touching are the advances in neural interfaces, where thoughts alone can guide a limb. A person who once stared at an unreachable glass of water can now reach for it, lift it, and sip, because a robotic hand, linked to their brain, followed the silent signal. Yet amid all this innovation, the heart of prosthetics remains human. It's in the soft conversations between patients and technicians, the careful fitting sessions, the slow, encouraging first steps. It's not just about movement, but about restoring dignity, control, and the gentle assurance that life, even after loss, can be full again. MRI machines and gentle diagnostics. Walk into a modern hospital, and somewhere behind soundproof walls, you'll find it. The humming chamber of an MRI machine. Massive, quiet in presence but powerful in ability. This machine changed how we see the body, without cutting, without pain, without even touch. Magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI, began taking shape in the 1970s. Unlike X-rays, which offered a glimpse of hard tissue like bones, MRIs used magnetic fields and radio waves to peer into soft tissues, brains, hearts, organs, muscles. Suddenly, doctors could see tumors, injuries, or anomalies in exquisite detail, in real time, and in perfect silence. Inside the MRI machine, the patient lies still. The room is cool. Headphones soften the rhythmic tapping sounds. And then, slice by slice, the body's secrets are revealed, without a scalpel. The images are astonishing. Brains light up in soft grays and whites, revealing strokes, lesions, or memory-related changes. Spines show slipped discs. Hearts beat, lungs breathe, and joints bend, all visible on screens where doctors and radiologists sit, quietly reading the body's inner story. MRI machines have helped detect cancer early, monitor neurological diseases, and guide surgeons with unmatched accuracy. For patients, it means earlier diagnosis, fewer invasive tests, and more peaceful paths to healing. Today, functional MRIs even show us the brain in action, highlighting areas used during speech, movement, or memory. We are closer than ever to understanding thought itself. It's all done without breaking the skin, without a drop of blood. Just magnets, sound waves, and silence. Certainly. Continuing from heading 7, Medicine and Wellness, Healing Through Innovation, here is the next subheading in the calm and detailed style. Hearing aids and sound restoration. The world is full of soft sounds, the rustling of leaves, a loved one's laughter, the quiet ticking of a clock. For those who've lost their hearing, these gentle melodies can feel forever distant. But quietly, over time, humanity has crafted a bridge between silence and sound, the hearing aid. The idea of restoring hearing isn't new. Ancient civilizations tried using hollowed-out animal horns or rudimentary ear trumpets to amplify sound. These early devices were more symbolic than effective, a way to say, "I still want to hear." But they were also the start of something meaningful. In the 20th century, true innovation began. The invention of the carbon microphone and the telephone indirectly sparked progress in hearing technology. Soon, bulky electronic devices, carried in pockets with cords leading to the ear, emerged. They were far from discreet, but they worked. For the first time, those with hearing loss could rejoin conversations, hear music, and smile at the sound of a child's voice. With time, technology grew gentler and more sophisticated. Transistors made hearing aids smaller. Then came digital processing, allowing devices to filter background noise, focus on speech, and adapt in real time. The harsh buzz of early models gave way to clarity. One of the most beautiful evolutions came with the design. No longer were hearing aids awkward or obvious. They tucked behind ears, nestled within canals, or even hid invisibly. Some could connect to smartphones, stream calls or music, and adjust through simple apps. Sound returned not with a shout, but with a whisper. Then, there are cochlear implants, a deeper solution for those profoundly deaf. These delicate devices, surgically implanted, bypass damaged parts of the ear and send signals directly to the brain. The results are nothing short of miraculous. Babies born deaf responding to their parents' voices, elderly individuals hearing birdsong after decades of silence. And perhaps most tenderly, there's the moment when someone hears again for the first time. That initial spark of sound, the intake of breath, the tears welling up. It's not just a technological feat, it's a human moment. A reunion with the world. Through quiet innovation and persistent care, hearing aids and auditory implants have brought sound back to millions. Each soft word and gentle noise is a testament to science's capacity for compassion. Robotic surgery and steady hands. Imagine a surgeon, not leaning over the operating table with scalpel in hand, but seated quietly at a console, fingers resting on precision controls. Before them, robotic arms hover gently over a patient, moving not with the tremble of human muscles but with the perfect steadiness of engineering. This is robotic surgery, a calm, calculated revolution in healing. The roots of this technology trace back to a desire for more precision, less trauma, and faster recovery. Traditional surgery, though life-saving, could be invasive, requiring large incisions and longer healing times. With robotic systems, that changed. One of the first and most widely used systems, the Da Vinci surgical system, arrived quietly in operating rooms in the early 2000s. It didn't replace the surgeon. Rather, it became an extension of them. Every small movement of the hand was mirrored by the robotic arms, but with greater accuracy, a steadier touch, and the ability to maneuver in tight spaces where human hands couldn't reach. These machines don't tire. They don't shake. They don't lose focus. They offer 3D views magnified in high definition, allowing doctors to see with unprecedented clarity. Operations that once left large scars now leave tiny marks. Patients rest, recover, and return to life with less pain and more peace. Robotic surgery is now used in many fields: urology, gynecology, cardiac surgery, oncology. Tumors are removed, hearts are repaired, and organs are adjusted with soft grace and gentle precision. Perhaps what's most compelling is not just the technology, but the philosophy behind it. To reduce harm, to preserve dignity, to heal with the lightest possible touch. In robotic surgery, medicine found a new rhythm, one that favors the quiet, the controlled, and the deeply thoughtful. In the software of robotic arms and the silent hum of control stations, a new chapter of surgical healing unfolds, one that honors both human skill and technological wonder. Telemedicine and virtual healing. There was a time when seeing a doctor meant long waits in crowded rooms, distant drives, and rushed consultations under fluorescent lights. But quietly, behind computer screens and through fiber optic cables, a new form of care was emerging: telemedicine. At first, it seemed modest. A phone call between patient and provider. Then, perhaps, a simple video chat to review a prescription. But when the world changed in 2020, when a global pandemic made in-person visits risky, telemedicine stepped into the spotlight, not with fanfare, but with service. Through virtual appointments, doctors could check on fevers, monitor chronic conditions, and provide emotional support, all from miles away. Patients could remain in pajamas, children asleep in the next room, while receiving real care from professionals sitting in another town, another city, or another state. This wasn't cold or impersonal. In many ways, it was more human. Doctors peered into patients' lives, saw their living rooms, met their pets, listened more deeply. The digital distance somehow brought emotional closeness. Telemedicine grew smarter, too. Devices like digital thermometers, pulse oximeters, and blood pressure monitors fed real-time data to healthcare providers. Mental health therapy found a new rhythm through secure video calls, letting people speak from the safety of home. Rural patients, long underserved, gained new access. Elderly individuals with mobility issues could avoid unnecessary trips. Children could get follow-ups without missing school. And with each screen lit up, a new kind of healing occurred, calm, efficient, and quietly revolutionary. Of course, challenges remain: privacy, access to internet, and technological comfort. But with each update, each innovation, the experience improves. Telemedicine is not the future. It is now, and it carries with it a promise that care can come to you gently when you need it most. Transportation and the changing landscape. Highways and the open road. There's something uniquely American about the open road. The long stretches of asphalt cutting across fields, mountains, and deserts feel like veins carrying life and movement through the land. But this quiet marvel, the highway system, wasn't always there. Its story is one of vision, ambition, and the gentle hum of progress. In the early 20th century, roads were dusty, narrow trails. Travel between cities was slow, unpredictable, and sometimes perilous. Cars were new, tires unreliable, and signage inconsistent. For most people, journeys were short and localized. Long-distance travel? That was for trains. But as cars became more common, the country began to dream of something bigger, a way to connect its people not just through telegraphs and phones, but through physical paths anyone could drive. The real transformation began in the 1950s, with President Dwight D. Eisenhower's vision for a national interstate system. Inspired by the autobahns he saw in Germany during World War II, Eisenhower believed that the United States needed a modern road network, not just for civilian ease, but for military mobility and economic resilience. And so, with quiet determination, the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956 was signed. What followed was one of the largest public works projects in history. Over 40,000 miles of interstate highways built across the nation. The roads themselves were more than just pavement. They represented freedom. Families packed into station wagons and took road trips across states. Small towns welcomed travelers with neon signs and cozy motels. The road trip became a cultural rite of passage, a chance to see the Grand Canyon, Mount Rushmore, or simply the changing landscapes outside one's window. Industries transformed, too. Trucks replaced trains for many forms of freight. Distribution became faster and more flexible. Suburbs grew along interchanges, and roadside businesses, diners, gas stations, drive-in theaters, found steady customers. But highways also brought quiet consequences. Some neighborhoods, especially in urban areas, were divided or destroyed by construction. The dominance of car culture led to declines in rail use and contributed to environmental concerns. Yet, despite these complications, the highway system endured as a symbol of possibility and progress. Today, when you drive along a quiet stretch of interstate, you're moving through more than scenery. You're moving through history, on roads built with vision, paved with hope, and traveled by millions who believed in the beauty of motion. Automobiles and the gentle revolution. The soft purr of a car engine, the quiet hum of tires on asphalt. These sounds became the background music of 20th century America. Automobiles didn't just change transportation. They reshaped culture, economy, city planning, and even the way Americans dreamed. The automobile was more than a machine. It was a symbol of personal freedom, privacy, and possibility. At the dawn of the 20th century, cars were rare and luxurious. The early motorcars, clunky, loud, and unreliable, were crafted by hand and reserved for the wealthy elite. But that changed dramatically with one man's innovation, Henry Ford. In 1908, the Ford Motor Company introduced the Model T, a rugged, affordable vehicle that would transform the lives of millions. Ford's genius wasn't just in making a good car, it was in making it accessible. With the invention of the moving assembly line, Ford revolutionized manufacturing. Instead of craftsmen building cars one at a time, workers assembled them in stages. The result? Cars were produced faster and more cheaply, allowing everyday Americans to own what had once been a luxury. By the 1920s, the automobile was no longer a novelty, it was a necessity. Families drove to work, to visit relatives, to explore the countryside. Businesses began to build around roads, and gas stations, repair shops, and motels sprang up to meet the needs of the mobile masses. The car wasn't just transportation. It was an extension of home, a private space on wheels. Culturally, the automobile sparked revolutions in music, fashion, and film. Drive-in theaters allowed couples to watch movies under the stars. Teens found freedom behind the wheel. Roadside diners became meeting places for travelers and locals alike. The language of America changed. Phrases like Sunday drive, road trip, and cruise entered the everyday lexicon. But the quiet revolution had its complications. Cities were restructured around cars, often at the expense of public transport and pedestrian spaces. Traffic congestion, air pollution, and auto accidents became part of the automotive story. And yet, even with these challenges, the automobile endured as a beloved icon. Innovations continued over the decades. From automatic transmissions to power steering, hybrid engines to electric cars, the automobile has remained in motion, technologically and culturally. Today's electric vehicles whisper across roads with barely a sound, continuing the tradition of gentle, innovative transformation. In the end, the automobile didn't just move people. It moved ideas. It carried stories. And it brought Americans closer, not just to destinations, but to dreams. The Model T and assembly line magic. The early 1900s marked a quiet revolution in manufacturing and everyday life with the introduction of the Ford Model T. This vehicle was not just a new car. It was a symbol of American ingenuity and the democratization of transportation. Before the Model T, automobiles were crafted slowly by hand, expensive and out of reach for most Americans. Henry Ford changed this by developing an assembly line system that transformed how cars were built. This innovation meant each worker performed a specific, repetitive task, allowing the car to move steadily down a conveyor belt, piece by piece. This new process drastically cut the time it took to build a car, from over 12 hours to just about 90 minutes. The efficiency reduced costs, enabling Ford to lower the price and make the Model T affordable for middle-class families. The Model T wasn't just affordable, it was durable and versatile. Its rugged design allowed it to traverse dirt roads and rural landscapes where infrastructure was still developing. It became the trusted companion for farmers, merchants, and townsfolk alike. This assembly line innovation didn't just revolutionize the automotive industry, it became a blueprint for mass production worldwide, impacting everything from household appliances to airplanes. The ripple effect changed labor dynamics, created new jobs, and reshaped the American economy. More than that, the Model T transformed American society. Families could travel farther, work farther, and explore more. Small towns grew as people became more mobile. The open road, once a dream, was now a reality. The rise of roadside culture. With cars came new needs and new opportunities. Roads became arteries not only for vehicles but also for commerce and culture. The early 20th century saw the birth of roadside America, gas stations, diners, motels, and billboards. Each establishment offered a quiet promise of comfort and rest to weary travelers. Neon signs flickered softly at night, guiding drivers to a warm meal or a clean bed. Diners served as social hubs where locals and travelers could meet, share stories, and recharge. Motels, a novel concept, allowed families to stay close to highways and continue their journeys refreshed. The rise of roadside culture also gave birth to iconic American traditions: Sunday drives, cross-country road trips, and car camping. These experiences nurtured a gentle, exploratory spirit that defined American leisure. Moreover, roadside businesses became engines of local economies, supporting communities with steady incomes and new employment opportunities. Railroads and the quiet expansion. Though automobiles and highways grew rapidly, railroads remained a backbone of American transportation during the 19th and early 20th centuries. Railroads connected cities, farms, and factories across vast distances, enabling the quiet movement of goods and people on an unprecedented scale. Steam locomotives powered this expansion, carving paths through mountains and across plains. The Transcontinental Railroad, completed in 1869, symbolized America's unification and industrial might. It shortened coast-to-coast travel from months to mere days. Railroads quietly shaped settlement patterns and economic development. Towns sprang up around rail hubs. Industries flourished with access to new markets. Even as cars and planes gained popularity, railroads continued to serve freight and commuter needs quietly, evolving with diesel engines and streamlined designs. Automobiles and urban development. The automobile's rise profoundly influenced the shape of American cities. Before cars, cities were dense, walkable, with homes, shops, and workplaces close together. Streets buzzed with horse-drawn carriages, streetcars, and pedestrians. With affordable cars, Americans moved farther from city centers, ushering in the era of suburbs. Neighborhoods sprawled quietly across former farmland, connected by new roads and highways. Suburban living promised space, privacy, and a peaceful environment, appealing to growing middle-class families. This shift required new infrastructure, wider roads, parking lots, traffic signals. Downtowns adapted, sometimes shrinking as commerce decentralized. Yet, this spread also increased dependency on cars, reducing public transit use and shaping lifestyle choices. Aviation and transportation links. The story of transportation isn't complete without flight. Though aviation seems like a sudden leap, it was a century-long quiet evolution from balloons to jets. The early 20th century's Wright brothers pioneered controlled powered flight, opening skies to human travel. As planes improved, air travel connected distant cities, complementing highways and railroads. Airport hubs grew into economic centers. Air mail sped communication. The blending of air, road, and rail networks formed a seamless transportation web quietly weaving America together. The quiet impact of public transit. While personal vehicles grew, public transit quietly supported millions. Streetcars, subways, and buses offered efficient, affordable city travel. Systems expanded in major cities like New York, Chicago, and Boston, enabling commuters to live outside downtown while working within it. Public transit shaped neighborhoods, eased congestion, and preserved pedestrian-friendly areas. Though often overshadowed by cars, transit remains vital to urban life and sustainability. High-speed rail and modern ambitions. As the 20th century closed, visions for faster rail travel quietly re-emerged. High-speed rail promised to combine train efficiency with airplane speed. Projects in California, the Northeast Corridor, and elsewhere aimed to modernize travel, reduce congestion, and lower emissions. Though challenges persist, the dream of quiet, fast, comfortable rail travel remains alive. Transportation's quiet future. Looking forward, transportation continues to evolve gently but profoundly. Electric and autonomous vehicles promise cleaner, safer roads. Hyperloop and drone delivery hint at new horizons. Infrastructure adapts to environmental and social needs. The journey of American transportation, from dirt roads to digital controls, is a story of quiet innovation shaping how people live, work, and explore. From gene editing techniques like CRISPR to advances in regenerative medicine, biotechnology is offering treatments for diseases once deemed incurable. Scientists can now edit faulty genes responsible for conditions like cystic fibrosis or certain cancers, providing hope for patients worldwide. Beyond human health, biotechnology enhances agriculture through genetically modified crops that resist pests, tolerate harsh climates, and improve yields. These innovations promise food security and environmental sustainability without the harsh chemicals of traditional farming. Yet, the gentle hand of biotechnology also raises ethical considerations: how to balance innovation with safety and respect for life. Careful regulation and public dialogue guide the path forward, ensuring that this powerful tool serves humanity responsibly. Virtual reality and soft immersion. Step into a world where the boundaries between reality and imagination blur softly. This is the magic of virtual reality, VR. American innovators have developed immersive technologies that transport users to entirely new environments, all from the comfort of their homes or workplaces. VR started as a niche tool for gamers and researchers, but its applications now gently expand into education, therapy, architecture, and social connection. Imagine a medical student practicing surgery in a virtual operating room, or a patient overcoming anxiety through controlled exposure therapy, all without physical risk. The technology relies on headsets and motion sensors that create a convincing sense of presence, wrapping users in sights, sounds, and even touch. As hardware becomes lighter and software more sophisticated, VR experiences grow richer and more accessible. This quiet immersion transforms how we learn, work, and connect, offering empathy-building experiences by allowing users to walk a mile in others' shoes. The future holds even softer, more natural interactions as VR merges with augmented reality, further blending digital with physical worlds. 3D printing and local creation. Innovation has taken a tangible form in the rise of 3D printing, a technology that quietly reshapes manufacturing by allowing the creation of complex objects layer by layer, right where they're needed. American pioneers in this field have made it possible to produce everything from simple household items to sophisticated medical implants with precision and speed. This gentle disruption empowers local creation, reducing the need for large-scale factories and long supply chains. Entrepreneurs and hobbyists alike can design and print custom products, prototyping ideas swiftly without the waste associated with traditional manufacturing. In medicine, 3D printing crafts prosthetics tailored to individual patients and even bioprints tissues for research. In aerospace and automotive industries, it produces lightweight, durable parts that improve performance and efficiency. The quiet potential of 3D printing lies in its democratization of production. Small communities and remote locations gain access to tools that can solve local challenges creatively, marking a new chapter in American innovation. 10.7 Quantum computing and future thinking. Deep beneath the surface of current technology lies a future quietly unfolding: quantum computing. Unlike traditional computers that process bits as zeros or ones, quantum computers use qubits, capable of representing multiple states simultaneously. This fundamental shift allows quantum machines to solve certain complex problems exponentially faster. American researchers and companies lead the charge in developing these delicate devices, which operate at near absolute zero temperatures to maintain quantum states. Though still in early stages, quantum computing promises breakthroughs in cryptography, material science, and complex simulations that classical computers struggle to handle. The potential impact is vast but gentle. Quiet